We've made it to episode 20 of the We Are Everywhere podcast. And I'm really excited about this episode. One, because I've never met this person, which these are my favorites. And two, this is going to be we're going to do this one slightly different. Today's guest is getting ready to go to their very first Phish show, opening weekend. So I don't know when you're watching this. You could be watching this recently, or you could be watching this 5 years from now. But what's happening is Phish is opening up their 2022 summer tour in Alabama, and Andersson is getting to hit her very first Phish show. So without further ado, today's guest is Andersson Dyke with two S's.
Yes.
Whenever we first connected on Twitter and I reached out to you, I spelt your name with one S, and you were like, before this conversation goes on, two S's.
I only do that because like my name is so uncommon, especially the way that it's spelled. So it's like, hey, it's worth knowing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, it's worth knowing. It's like you got to get it right, you know. But I think Anderson's such a cool name. I always think of Andersson Paak, but Andersson Dyke is even better. So, Andersson,
funny.
you are cousins, correct? With one of my very best friends. He's also been on this podcast before, Jackson Lucas. And you're also, well, instead of me trying to guess and tell your story, let's start off before we get into any Phish stuff. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? What's the Andersson story? Let's hear it.
Cool. I am in Houston. I am currently in college in Virginia. I'm a creative writing major. I wanted to be a music minor, but I couldn't fit it in. So I'm just going to take, music classes when I can.
Yeah.
What else? Other than I write and listen to Phish.
That's you can't beat that. What kind of stuff do you like to write? Like music based stuff, or like?
Yes and no. I don't write music. I write fiction, mostly
Gotcha.
short stories. I'm kind of on the literary trend right now. And I think I'm going to be a short story writer, at least for the time being. That's what I want to do.
Very cool.
Maybe do some editing for like publishing companies, or like work with my writing coach who has a tutoring company that helps kids read and write. And some of his students were like me, who actually wanted to write, not just for academics. So I'm just trying to, I guess, write. I've been writing since I was 9. I self-published something. My parents are going to make me talk about this. I wrote a little novella thing when I was like 9, and I self-published it for charity for people with my disorder. I should probably talk about that. I have a disorder where I break bones easily, as you can tell.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's something I've dealt with all my life. I'm used to it by now. But
so your arm is broken right now?
Sort of. It's hard to explain, and it's not just my arm. I fell recently, broke my tailbone, and possibly my wrist, but the X-ray didn't show anything. So,
Gotcha.
It's suspicions.
So you're not in pain? Are you in pain right now?
Sort of. I think because I've dealt with so many of these,
Sure.
I'm good at masking it. Like when I'm with people, I perk up. As you can tell, I'm kind of perky right now. Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking the time, especially if you're in pain. I mean,
You're
it sounds rough, but like you said,
Don't worry about it. I
been
wanted to
dealing
see
with it.
people anyway.
Yeah. How has especially with you being a college student, like how has the pandemic like affected you? Because did you say that you're living in Houston, but you're taking classes online in Virginia?
No, not online. I'm actually going.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, so you're commuting from Texas to?
No. I'm. Maybe I am. I don't know. Maybe I didn't understand you right. I am in campus for the semesters.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And and I even joined. So I was a freshman in 2020.
Gotcha.
My
Oh,
freshman year
wow.
was during the pandemic, yeah. So yeah, that was an interesting start to college, but
I
I got used
imagine.
to it. Yeah, it's a small school anyway. We all kind of stayed away from each other for the first year. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
yeah,
I also had another author on a previous episode,
mhm,
and I always love getting to talk to people that are smarter than I am, or that have that skill of writing. Because even like I work in radio,
right,
and the furthest my writing goes is like writing copy for like the radio station, and
yeah,
a lot of that's just like, hey, listen to our radio station, or you are listening to our radio station. So I've never really been challenged, but the few times that I have been challenged to like, hey, write, especially like in college, it's like, hey, write this story or write this essay. I'm always like,
mhm,
oh
no,
gosh.
yeah,
so,
no, I
so
get
it's
it, and
cool that you have that,
yeah,
that creative, that part of it too.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I really like it.
mhm,
So hold on, I want to backtrack because you said you've
uh-huh,
already published something at the age of 9. W-
sort of. I don't like talking about it because I was
Oh, okay.
9. Uh, I, it
We don't have to talk about it, but
okay,
it'll be worth something someday. I promise. One day
sure.
you're gonna think it's cool. You're gonna be like, "Look, this was my very first published work."
It's not like Gogi apparatus, okay? It's not like something I wrote in 3rd grade and it was funny and everyone thought it was actually cool. Like, it was just n no.
I got you. It's
They
like one
had
of the
much better things to write at 3rd grade than I did.
that was kinda like me whenever I was young.
Mhm,
And this was I was kind of in my, what was it? Probably 12, 13 years old
mhm,
at the big era of like whenever Jackass was super popular, like with
mhm,
Johnny Knoxville and Bear Margera and all them. And so all of our friends were like into like skateboarding and stuff. And I finally convinced my dad to get me a video camera because I was like,
mhm.
I want to do all this stupid Jackass stuff, like these guys are so cool. And
Yeah,
then, fast forward 10, 15 years later, still having I haven't looked at it in a very long time, but still having that footage that like we would film at that young age, it's just like so cringy. I'm like,
it's
oh
so
my
dumb.
God.
I hate doing that. I hate, like, I have tons of files on my computer from even from the first thing that I wrote, which was that story. Um, I'm like, it might have been good, and then I read it and it's like, okay, I'm glad I stopped working on this.
Yeah. Like, put it in the vault. Nobody's ever seen this.
Yeah, nope, nope. I even have a folder in my Dropbox called personal things, and then I have one potentially published. Like, they are two very separate things.
Yeah. You got like an encrypted code on the personal one. It's like you have to put in 4 different passwords and type.
Yeah,
I love that. Let's get into some music.
sure.
Obviously you're a Fish fan. Um, how did one you discover Fish,
Mhm.
and then let's start there. How did you
Okay.
discover Fish?
I think I had the most basic answer ever. My dad showed me them.
Okay. No, that's
Um,
cool. So your dad's a Fish fan.
yeah, we yeah, so it was a lot of road trips and, car rides, so I listened to a lot of Gem On before it became Fish Radio
Right.
and classic vinyl and all those things, so I got to know a lot of bands, I feel like, at the same time.
Mhm.
Um, and it wasn't for a while that I really got into Fish, because it was only in the car, and there were a lot of things that I had mixed up with other bands. So,
Sure.
I mean, a common mix-up would be between Fish and the Grateful Dead. Um, and I mixed up all sorts of different bands. I thought some bands were one genre and not and some others.
Right.
I had everything mixed up. I think.
And
Mhm,
that's easy to do, especially like with what you said, like just listening in the car. And
mhm,
if you're not like actively listening, if you're just like passively listening, you're
mhm,
like, oh yeah, both of these bands, they'll start a song and then
mhm.
go do some weird shit for
Yeah.
15 to 20 minutes and then in the song again. So I can see
Mhm.
it's easy to get mixed up if you're not paying attention, you know.
Yeah, if I may, I think the most embarrassing mix-up I've ever had was String Cheese Incident
Okay.
and Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh, how so which one did you
Jellyfish.
think would
Jellyfish was it.
oh, jellyfish. You thought jellyfish was Red Hot Chili Peppers?
And I thought, like, Scar Tissue or, Soda Squeeze was String Cheese. Like, I either that or I thought they were all kind of, like, whichever one.
Sure.
I could not differentiate, and it took me so long.
Yeah, like Soul to Squeeze comes on, and you're like, "Oh, I love string cheese incident."
Or I think an easy one is String Cheese and Color.
Yeah, that's more
That
of
one
a
makes sense.
yeah, that one makes sense for sure.
But yeah,
So
I
with
mixed up a lot of things.
I've done the same thing, and it's one of those things to where, you know, at a certain age and depending, like, what kind of people you're hanging out with too, like, if you
Mhm.
say
Yeah.
something wrong or, like or, like, mislabel a jam or, like, something like that, like, most of the time people are like, "Oh, yeah, no, that's this," but
Yeah.
sometimes, depending on, like, your friend group, you'll get kinda roasted, so I assume, like, if you're mixing these up with your dad, he's not, like, roasting you about it, so
No, he's like, "No, this is String Cheese Incident." I'm like, "Oh."
got
I
it.
have to make sure. Like, sometimes I would think, "Okay, I'm gonna make sure I know this is String Cheese Incident," and then maybe another few months later, it happens again because I'm not looking at the song titles. I'm not, like, paying attention to what sound happens when.
Right, and
So,
especially,
yeah.
like, if you just turn on, like you mentioned Sirius XM, like, if it's
Mhm,
just on playing multiple things or if you have it on Spotify and you're not sitting there looking at the screen,
mhm.
if it's not, like, one of your favorite bands, like, how are you gonna know, you know?
Yeah, yeah, you're not, yeah. Yeah,
So,
I
you
listen
you're
to
taking
oh,
oh
go ahead.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I listen to a lot of different artists, that way, I there are so many bands at this point that I know that my dad knows that I know, but I probably could not tell you that I know because I think he somehow remembers all of these bands that he has shown me, and I'm like and sometimes I'll let Spotify go random,
Yeah,
and it'll play a song that I recognize, but I had never either known the artist's name or the song, or I know the artist's name, but I didn't know I knew the song.
right.
And I will ask my dad, I'll be like, "Hey, have I heard this before?" He's like, "Yeah, I showed you." Okay. So
No,
many bands.
no, it keeps happening, so, like,
Yeah.
with you, like, going on these road trips and stuff with your dad and listening to
Mhm.
Jam On and classic vinyl.
Yeah.
Phish obviously popped up. You mentioned the Grateful Dead popped up.
Mhm.
String Cheese. Outside of Phish, what are
Mhm.
some other ones that you can remember that stuck out to you to where you were like, "Oh, that's a cool sound that maybe you
Yeah.
hadn't heard before."
Um, I remember. So no, Umphreys McGee was one of them.
Yeah.
Because when I actually went to actively listen to them later on, I pulled up I think Anchor Drops, and I remember and I recognized the first two tracks, and he was like, "Yeah, I showed you that whole album." It's like, "Oh, okay."
He's wanting to take credit for your all of your music knowledge.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. A lot of stuff came up, of course, that I probably could not remember off the top of my head.
I'm
He
assuming
showed.
some classic rock stuff as
Yeah,
well. Like,
classic rock
yeah.
stuff, Allman Brothers, Grateful Dead,
Hmm.
I don't know if The Who counts, there are some
Yeah.
things. Yeah, I don't there are some things that I confuse the genres of,
Hmm.
um, so, I mean, anything I'd say could be really anything,
Yeah.
um, a little bit of Red Hot Chili Peppers,
I love them.
um, Minutemen, I think I've heard maybe a song or 2 of Cream, um,
Hmm.
String Cheese, Keller, Widespread Panic.
Hmm.
My mom was a my mom is a Sun Volt person, um,
Oh, okay.
so sometimes I heard some of them through her, and then Wilco for my dad,
Love it.
because of that SWIP thing.
Yeah.
Um, God, there's so many.
So you've grown
And
up
of
with
course now
a
I listen to. Mhm.
yeah, you've grown up with a very good musical taste. You're blessed with, you know, the
Yeah.
exposure that you've gotten like from your parents
Mhm.
because it's as strange as it sounds because I grew up with a really good musical taste from my parents as well. And you would
Mhm.
think that that's like the case with
Yeah.
everyone, but a lot of people's parents are just like, yeah, no, listen to what's on the radio, like whatever,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever's
Yeah.
playing, like, and they don't share that. So very
Yeah.
fortunate.
Yeah. I think I also mentioned The Who, Pink Floyd,
Sure.
those guys. Um, there's so many.
Oh yeah.
I wish I had more.
Well, let's bring it back to Fish. So you're in the
Okay.
car with your dad, listening to Jam
Mhm.
On,
Mhm.
and and I know that he's like probably pointing out songs, like
Yeah.
if you're asking questions,
Mhm.
what is that first memory of you that you have of being like of hearing Fish, whether you knew it
Mhm.
was them or not, and being like,
Right.
oh, this is cool. Like, what is this?
Um, so I probably could not tell you what my first song was because, I didn't know what I was listening to.
Sure, sure.
Um, I think so I at some point I need to make a playlist on Spotify of like what I call my childhood songs because
Yeah.
I remember songs that I have heard as a kid versus ones that I didn't. Um, so my brother and I both really liked You Enjoy Myself, which is very basic, I feel like.
No, it's great. It's one I was listening to. It's funny you said that because I was listening
Yeah.
to You Enjoy Myself on the way home from
Mhm.
work off of the most recent Live Bait
Mhm.
release.
Mhm.
And yeah, no, it's a great one. That's not
Yeah.
generic at all. Yeah.
Um, I actually think the one that struck me was Sparkle, which is very
Oh,
out of out of context, I think, because we thought it was really funny at the end when it would speed up. Like my brother and I would find it really funny
yeah.
when they sped up
Yeah.
at the end.
Yeah, they get cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely have we definitely saw the like funny kind of thing they have going on.
Yeah.
Um, everything they do is like so literally Golgi apparatus, and they wrote it in third grade, right?
Yeah, they're
Um,
silly. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's what stuck onto me for a long time, and I didn't really start actively listening to Fish on my own until 2018. It was
2018. Okay.
all, yeah, it was
So
all in the car. Mhm.
at that point in 2018, what was it that flipped that switch to where you were like, I'm actively seeking out Fish now?
So I
Or do
think
you
it actually
remember?
happened gradually. Um,
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah, because at first it was like, I don't know who these guys are, but I like their music. And then at some point I started learning titles, and like albums. My dad's two favorite albums are Billy Breathes and Rift, I think. Um, he's a big Mike guy, so whenever he hears Mike, that's what he listens to.
Yeah,
And so he showed me those two. I think he's shown me Farmhouse, some other things. And I find it funny that I got into them right as they got back together because it was 2009, 2010. I was 9 or 10. I think I had a lot of breakthrough points when I was 9.
yeah,
Um,
right.
yeah. Um, and over time, I learned titles of songs. I learned like their names eventually. I It wasn't really like a sudden flip. It was just overall like bigger and bigger knowledge of them. Um, and eventually, my dad was like, "They can't." My dad likes to talk about how he discovered live fish. He would say, "They can't do this live. This is impossible." And then he found live fish, and now he likes live fish better, right?
Oh, okay.
Which I think
S
is the main consensus.
so your dad was mainly listening to albums then?
Studio.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's it's funny. I think I like to say that we discovered them at the same time, but he had known them in He had known of them in college. He had heard a few of their albums when they came out because he was in college when those albums were coming out. Like,
Sure.
I think he graduated in '92, so like he was there during kind of the bulk of
The beginning,
those
yeah.
albums, right? He wasn't a big fan though. I think he'd only gone to one show. But he and I sort of built our fandom around the same time, and he built it strictly because he was a Deadhead. Um,
That's a pretty common jump,
that
yeah.
is, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think my introduction is very different,
Mhm.
compared to most people. Um, yeah, it. So what happened with me in 2018 was I found Spotify,
Right.
um, and, I was given, I think, a year subscription to it, because everyone was going into Spotify.
Yeah.
Um, so what I did was I compiled all of their studio albums into one playlist
There you go.
in an I don't know what the heck order.
Right. Just have it on shuffle.
Oh, well, no, I just put the albums on there as I discovered them,
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
rather than by date or by whatever.
Mhm.
Um, so it's a very weird, like, order. If someone saw my playlist, they would be like, "Why would you put those 2 albums together?"
Because I
Um,
want to, that's why.
yeah, and it stemmed from Apple Music. I bought a number of the songs that I knew and put that in a playlist, um, and it came to the order that I found those songs in. So, like, first album is Billy Breeze, then it's Rift, and I think, that's because my dad was like, "Alright, so your first 2 albums, those 2,
It's
go."
like giving you assignments.
Yeah,
Love
and
that.
then oh, can I give you the whole thing?
Yeah, give me the whole
Okay,
thing.
so Billy Breathes, I remember it, I think it's memory now. Um, Billy Breathes, Rift, next is Farmhouse, then Junta,
Mhm.
then, Hoist, Joy, um, what is after Joy? I think it's Picture of Nectar,
Wow, yeah.
then, um, Story of the Ghost, I think Fuego is after that, and then, um, Lawn Boy,
Okay.
um, and then Big Boat, and then Undermined of all things right after Big Boat, um, and then Round Room, and that's when it stopped at the time because that's what they had, and then later I added Sigma
Yeah, and
towards
that's
the end.
that's quite literally all over the place.
Yeah, and I don't know how it happened, and I think the only consistency was everything after Lawn Boy was new to me.
Gotcha, okay.
Like, I didn't know those albums existed, um,
Gotcha. So it's
and
just
it just happened
a
to
whole
be
new
20
world.
yeah, and it just
Yeah.
happened to be 2018 after Big Boat, so
Yeah, you started diving in. So
mhm,
we know you're very well versed with all of the studio albums.
yeah.
Um, when did the jump to listening, or has it come yet? The jump to listening to like shows or live fish?
Um, I'm not very knowledgeable on shows. Like, I get real jealous of people who are like, "Yeah, I've been to this show, and I listened to this show multiple times," like, all these things.
Right.
Um, I do like, I was introduced to live and studio kind of in the same time,
Mhm.
when my dad was showing me. It was like, oh, my dad was, getting all fan crazy, like, "Oh, this is live. This is supposed to be even better," and it is, right?
Right.
Uh, to a certain extent, but I think because I went so deep into studio
Mhm.
that and I have a very particular way of listening to music. I don't I don't listen to new stuff very often. It's maybe a new album per month or a new album every other month or something. It's very like sparing.
Mhm.
Um and that's how I started treating live shows. Other than like dinner and a movie and
Sure.
stuff like that. Um I had only really deeply listened to maybe 4 or 5, um, and I think I
Like
only
full shows?
yeah, full
Gotcha.
shows, um, and it was only because at the time I only had Spotify, and of course now my cousin has given me, uh, a year of Live Fish Plus, and he's like, "Alright, you need to listen to more live."
Yeah, yeah.
And I've listened to a few, but it's my I need something familiar a lot of the time.
Sure.
So what happens is I end up listening to the same things over and over, um, and I don't really listen to much outside of that when it comes to new stuff other than like different bands.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, I let's see, yeah, probably like 3 or 4 shows I think I've only really listened to kind of head on all
And
the
are
time. I
those
know what happened, like things like that.
And are those newer shows, or are those from, like, back in, like, the 1.0 era, or
Um, okay, here's the thing, when you say 1.0, sometimes I get confused.
Okay, yeah,
I
no, so
have a
let's
weird I have a weird perception of the point O's.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it's a lot to I remember whenever I was first processing all this because you have the point oh system
mhm.
to memorize, right? And then you also have, like, the types of jams to memorize. You're like, "Okay, this wait,
I'm new to that.
type 1 means what? Type 2 means this." So, with the 1.0 and 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, all that
Mhm,
stuff, that's literally just, like, a timeline,
yeah,
chronologically, like, how to break it down per
mhm,
segment. And it's usually the point O's come, when a breakup happens.
mhm, yeah,
So that's
and
pretty much the gist of it.
it's funny because, like, I always thought, 1.0 was, like, everything before Junta because it was, like, Phish didn't know what they were doing yet, so I thought that
Okay.
was 1.0, and I thought
Okay.
2.0 was from there up until the breakup because I didn't know about this hiatus thing, I didn't know, what that was about, and
Right.
then 3.0 and 4.0, if there is a 4.0,
Right.
that's an argument.
I know.
Um, those are the only 2 things that I think I actually am correct about in my mind.
Yeah, but and a lot of people, like, there's some people that take this whole thing, like, way too
Um,
seriously. Like,
yeah.
if you mispronounce something, or like an era or a type of a jam or something like that, and it's like, "Hey, calm down, buddy. Calm down. It's okay. We're talking about
Yeah,
music
yeah,
here."
yeah, yeah, music is subjective, yeah.
So
Um,
were these
mhm,
shows, this handful of shows that were kind of exploring, were they, like, in
mhm.
the 90s, or were they, like, in the 2000s, or do you remember even?
Um, first one, I think technically first 2 were 90s. My
Cool.
first one was I think this is a famous one. Um, the I know it by the date. Other people know it by location or whatever.
Yeah.
12/29/94,
Yeah.
Rhode Island. It's
Got
that
it.
David Bowie with Lassie.
Yeah. That's
And
a
that's actually why I listened to it.
That is a
Um,
massive Bowie, and
yeah,
it
yeah.
gets scary.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't do that sort of thing for, like, Halloween or something.
Right.
Um, but that was only because my cousin was like, "Hey, this David Bowie is really cool, you should listen to it."
Threw
So
you into
instead
the
of
deep
just
end.
yeah, so instead of just listening to David Bowie, I listened to the whole thing because I wanted the
Mhm.
context of the whole thing.
Sure.
And, I ended up really liking it. That's where I found the lizards, um that's where I found out that I actually do like foam and Split Open and Melt, those 2.
Yeah.
Foam, I recently added back in the studio because I didn't like it for some reason.
Oh, you didn't like
Split,
it
I
live?
cannot yeah,
Gotcha.
Split, I cannot do studio. I don't know what he does with his voice, although I'm a hypocrite because I like Esther because of that. Um,
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah, so that was my first show. My second show technically, is from it's not the first or third show from the Hampton Winston box set, it's the second one.
Okay.
Only the second one, I haven't gotten to the first and third
Gotcha.
because I didn't want them all to be kind of one in my mind.
Sure.
Um, so it was specifically the second one because of Harry Hood, and that is still to this day one of my favorite first of all, one of my favorite versions and one of my favorite songs to hear live.
Yeah, it's great.
Um, yeah, um, yeah, so that was my second one, and then my third one is kind of like a mix of multiple things. When Jackson talked about Camden,
Mhm.
um, I thought, "Wait a minute, that sounds familiar." So I looked it up. That was the show that I had known about because he said Birds of a Feather was really cool. I actually agree with that.
Mhm.
And then obviously the Tweezer.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that was technically my third show, but the third show that I added to the shows that I kind of listen to nonstop is Fukuoka 2000.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, it's a lot of the bigger shows kinda
Yeah,
thing.
it's a great place to
Yeah.
start, with the ones
Mhm.
that, if you get online and quite literally type in y best Phish shows of all time, you know?
Yeah, I'm gonna get at least one of them. I mean,
Yeah.
Fukuoka, yeah. And then in the start of this year, I actually sort of started listening to more shows. I listened to first of I think it was the second of Island Tour. And then I
Island
know
Tour is
them by
great.
numbers. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know them by numbers. So like if someone says, "Oh, this tour," I'm like, Give me the date."
Yeah, give me the give
um,
yeah. Yeah, it
yeah,
makes it easier for sure, and
mhm,
I love how you listen to music because
mhm,
for me, at this point, it's more of a if I'm like, "Okay, I wanna listen to Fish." I'll
yeah,
either, get on Spotify or get on Live Fish, and I'll be like, I'm gonna go 99," and I'll just
yeah,
go to the year and just pick, like, a random
mhm,
show, or if I'm like, oh, I really want to hear this tweezer that I like, or I want to really
mhm,
hear, XYZ for whatever I'm craving at the moment.
mhm,
But I kind of just throw it on willy nilly and
mhm,
don't really pay attention until what I want to be on is on, And I
yeah,
love that
yeah,
you're listening, or it sounds like you're listening with so much intention
mhm,
or attention and not wanting to like get overwhelmed. You're really wanting to
yeah,
process the whole show as
mhm,
an experience. And I think that's really
yeah,
cool.
yeah, and I will, listen to the same thing over and over and over until I'm bored with it, and then I find something new.
Right.
Um, and that is how I discovered, other bands. I'm very much a kind of jam head, mostly 90s and after. At least that's what I look for, but
Mhm.
I don't usually look for music. I let Spotify do it. And
Why
then
not?
yeah, and then if I hear a song that I particularly like, I'll go listen to that album or, you know, if the timing is right, I'll be like, "Okay, this band is really cool. I want to go with everything." And I will make a random playlist of their albums with no intention of order and just listen.
Just
Um,
dive in.
mhm.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah. And because of that because of that, the lyrics and some other things of these bands has bled into my writing. Um,
Ah.
yeah. Um, I for a while, I think especially in my senior year of high school, I took a lot of inspiration from music in terms lyrically, it could be just the title, it could be really anything.
Mhm.
Um, and I think there's become a theme of the kind of songs that I like because of this. Um, if I may talk about that.
Yeah, dive in, that's what we're here.
Um, um, I think my family likes to go against me on this. I technically have 2 favorites. One of them is Petrichor because one of the first short stories that I wrote, the first thing that got me into this kind of writing, um, was Petrichor. And I wrote a little short story. I called it Petrichor because why not? Um, and it started my journey into writing the way that I do now. Um, and I know Petrichor is just about storms, at least in the song, the lyrics.
Yeah, I think because I remember when that came out, and I was
Mhm.
like, "Is this a made up word?" So I, like, looked it up, and I
No,
think
it's not, yeah.
yeah, I think by definition, it's, like, the smell
Mhm.
that you can smell, like, after it's
After
rained,
it
but
rains.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
raining right now here
Yeah.
in, Michigan, so I might walk out after this and, smell some petrichor.
Yeah, 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 and, that's, I think, where almost everyone who is in that community learns that word, because it's not very it's not
Yeah,
very
yeah,
known. It's not very well known, so I was like, "Okay, what is this word? This is cool."
yeah.
So I looked it up, right? And when I think it was the second time that I'd ever heard it, I was I came up with that short story, and I kind of like the idea of instrumentals, because it could take you anywhere,
Yeah.
right? And that's what Fish does. That's kind of their intent. Um, so I took storms and made it a woman an old woman who lives kind of in a beach house right by the beach who loves to watch these storms. And I kind of have like a background with it. I sent the first draft of it to the, like, Phish Inc. people because I was so,
Yeah.
like, hyped about it.
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know who reads it over there, though. I don't know who, like, mans it, but
Right.
Jackson says like, they wrote a letter back, and Jackson's like, "Hey, this might be Mike's handwriting." I have
Wait,
no
they wrote
idea.
you a letter back
They wrote me a
saying
letter
like
back.
that they like your story or what?
Yeah, um,
That's cool.
and Jackson is like, "Well, this might be Mike's handwriting," and I'm like, I could not tell you,
Yeah. How do you know?
'cause it was Fish Inc. that signed it, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, so,
So
yeah.
what did they say in the back in the letter? Was it just like, "Hey, thanks for sharing this with us," or "Hey, we really
Yeah,
like this," or
it was just, yeah, thanks for sharing this, we really like, what, uh how you made Madeline really like storms or something. Her name is Madeline. Um, things like that. It's a very isolated. I think I've tended to write isolated kind of things. And yeah, I have a lot of other songs that I've based things off of or literally taken the story of and tried to, you know, um, redo it in short story form.
yeah.
I've written Esther 3 different times in 3 different forms. Uh,
Oh,
Esther
wow.
is probably my other favorite. It's
Gotcha.
like my weird fish favorite, and then Petrichor is like my newer fish favorite, I think. Yeah, Esther, I cannot get over.
So
Um,
that's one
yeah.
of your and it's funny because one of the questions that I ask, in
Mhm.
this doing this podcast just to bring a little bit of controversy is I ask, what's a Fish song basically that you don't like or that you would never want to hear again? And one of my buddies, we both kind of resonated with Esther. He's
Okay.
like, I'm okay with not hearing Esther. And I was like, I'm kind of with you, man. The more people that I
Wow.
have on, I
You.
I recognize like some people say like, "Oh, that's my favorite song," and I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
yeah.
well, I can't
I
really agree and make myself a
okay.
hypocrite because
Okay,
I've already
I'm
said."
not gonna make you I'm not gonna make you like it. Here's the reason I like it, okay?
Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
I think it's because it's a narrative,
Mhm.
and I drive towards songs that are narrative,
Sure,
like, that's why I like Twiddle. They have a lot of songs that are narrative, that have characters, that have a story, things like that.
gotcha.
That is the songs that I drive through. That is why I like The Lizards, that is why I like Reba, sort of. Reba is a weird thing, that is why I like Walls of the Cave, Gamehenge,
Mhm.
although I think for a while I didn't know Lizards was the Gamehenge, I thought it was its own thing,
Right, yeah.
which I thought was cool, right? And
Yeah.
it can be its own standalone story, I think, because it's
Mhm.
just and I'm actually working on my own version of that, but I'm trying to kind of separate it as much as I can,
Sure.
so I can publish it, right?
Right.
Um, yeah, so I'm very driven towards narrative things, which I think says a lot of why I like Esther,
Right.
and all these other things. And the flying jam is really cool. I think if someone were to ask me who my favorite member is, it's probably Paige or Trey. I can't I
I
can't
know.
say that because then in my mind I'm like, no, I like this guy. No, I like this one. Um,
Right. It's
um,
such a hard question, I mean,
it is.
because once you fall in love with this band, you fall in love with all of them because it's not like there's an
Yeah,
outlier, where one of
yeah,
them's just
yeah,
like an asshole or like, a diva or
yeah,
anything. It's like they're all
yeah,
really
yeah.
lovable.
But I think I have instrumental bias when it comes to Paige because I sort of play piano,
Okay.
myself, but I think depending on the jam, depending on the song, I'll drive towards him the most, other than Trey because Trey, I think, can be the loudest.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
there's always that kind of volume thing, like, my dad hears Mike the most, and I'm very fascinated by that because I cannot hear the bass very often, and when I do, I love it, but
Yeah.
I can't hear it very often. That's why I like Weak Apart, that's why I like Down with Disease, things
Yeah.
where you are supposed to hear it.
It's like at the
Um,
forefront. Right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but, yeah, when it comes to songs, I think, um I don't really have a particular parameter when it comes to what I'm looking for in music, but I do draw towards narratives. And also, I really like what they do when they're in their weird kind of I don't know what's happening
Yeah.
moment in. live. That's why I really like that David Bowie. Um, and also the Haley's Comet that's on the Winston Salem box set thing. That one's,
Mhm.
I think, I'm not sure if it's well known or just like
Oh
under the
yeah.
radar.
Yeah, no, that's that's a really well-known one.
Yeah, it's
It's
like really long, like 20 minutes, and
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's really good. And there's a
yeah.
part in that jam, and I really hope I'm not mistaking this Haley's for another one, or I'm gonna get completely annihilated when this episode comes out. But I believe that is the one where if you if you listen really closely,
Mhm,
right whenever they finish the song and start to go into the jam,
mhm.
you can hear like Trey excuse me.
Oh, do I
He
think I
steps
know what you're
away
talking
he
about?
steps away from the mic and gets
Uh-huh.
Mike Gordon's attention, and he goes, "Hey, Mike, stay on F." And like you can barely hear it, like because he's not saying it into the
Yeah.
microphone, obviously.
Mhm.
And then Mike stays on F, and that's when they launch into the jam, and it's
Really?
one of the best. And I really hope to God that I'm not mislabeling this Haley's Rock.
I'll I might look it up after, I don't know, but,
Yeah.
the reason I like it, well, obviously because it's really long and really kind of instrumental,
Mhm.
but, that is there is a part in the beginning before the song starts where the crowd is yelling. I think in Phish.net it said something about like Destiny Unbound. I think they were like trying to ask for Destiny Unbound, and Trey comes up to the mic, says very loudly, "I don't know what you're saying. It sounds like you're making some horrible chant of this like cult of people who want blood." And he
Yeah.
makes this like weird noise. Like my dad loves it, and he had been finding that he had been searching for that because he heard it on Jam On and he could not remember where it was from, and I found it. Um, um,
And you're like, "I found it.
yeah,
I found it."
yeah. Yeah, the weirdest noise that Trey ever makes in a show, and it's very like I do not want to attempt to intimidate that or to
Right.
imitate that. Um, but that's why I like it also because it's very long and instrumental and makes you kind of think a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanna make a transition here.
Okay.
I wanna talk about because your very first Fish show is coming up.
Mhm.
Orange Beach, Alabama.
Mhm.
You're doing Saturday night.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. My throat is bugging me right now.
You've been on radio, that's why.
Yeah, I talk all day for a living, that's why.
Yeah.
So you're gearing up, took some time out to do this podcast from packing, getting
Mhm.
ready to make the drive from Texas to Alabama.
Mhm.
I wanna know, and it's kinda hard, for people say, "Oh, I try to go into shows with no expectations, I don't wanna be disappointed or let down or whatever,"
Mhm.
but everyone has expectations. So,
Yeah.
pre your first
Mhm.
show, what are you expecting? What do you want out of it? What are you looking forward to the most? What are you expecting?
Um, so I've been to a Tab show before.
Okay, cool.
So I know what the scene is like, sort of.
Sure.
Tab is a lot smaller. I went to their House of Blues show in in Houston. Um, also right after breaking a bone.
Oh,
um,
man.
I find that really funny actually because it's like, what if every time I go to a Fish show, I basically have to go with a broken bone?
Oh my gosh.
I find that so
Well,
funny.
let's hope
Um,
not.
yeah, but I don't know.
It is what it is.
Yeah. So last time, I think I built kind of an ego by accident because
An ego
I had
by
said
accident. I love that.
because we were having dinner before the show, having
Mhm.
dinner in the movie. Um,
Yeah.
sorry, I tend to do that a lot. I love to make
The
puns out of it.
tie-ins, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, yeah. We were having dinner and, my family was like, "Hey, what do you wanna hear? What's going on?" And I said, for some reason, I had this strong confidence with sand, and they played it right before we left.
Very cool.
And we left early. We left before, encore because we didn't want to hit that crowd.
I don't blame
Um,
you.
yeah, and So they played that song right before we left. It was kind of like a last minute, like, oh my god, they played Sand.
Yeah.
Um, and it was I can't remember if it was the set ender or I don't know if the show closer is the end of the set or the encore. What is
Yeah,
that?
I mean, you could well, just the existence of an encore, right? Say like labeling it as encore would imply
Mhm.
that the last song of the actual show before the encore would be the show closer or set
Yeah,
closer.
okay.
Set closer. Let's
Mhm.
go with set closer because then
Yeah,
nobody
set
can
closer.
roast us.
I think it was a set closer. There I think when I looked up the I looked it up at Phish.net to see what else they played when I was gone, and I think they might have played Tuesday, before they ended the show.
Oh, okay.
But for me, it ended at Sand. Um,
Because I left.
yeah, 'cause I um, and ever since then, I've had this odd knack for, getting songs, like, the next one's gonna be "You Enjoy Myself," and then it comes on radio
Oh,
or
nice.
something like that.
Right.
I also have this weird I'm really good at spotting when Split is coming. Something that Phish does on the drums that tells me even before the song starts that they are going to play Split.
Okay.
This happens all the time. Don't know what it is. It's not like a song that I'm expecting earlier. It's just something that randomly is like, "Oh, they're gonna play Split."
You can feel
Um,
it.
yeah, yeah, you can sometimes feel some of the songs,
Yeah.
which I really like. So I have when I first found out that I was going to see Phish, which was back in March, um, of course, I was really excited. I
Sure.
had a hard semester, so I think it Phish was one of the things that got me through it. Um, and I didn't I purposefully did not listen to Phish to see what I would think about, to see, like, what songs I would think about them playing. First thing that showed up was Fluffhead. Um,
Okay.
some reason I had this strong inclination that Fluffhead was coming on, um, when I'm in the show, and of course, they're playing a show beforehand, so I could be summoning it before then.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, setting yourself
yeah,
up. Yeah.
yeah, and then also Wilson, for some reason. I
Okay.
don't listen to Wilson that often, it's only in shows, so I don't hear it that often.
Mhm.
Um, but I know it when we all know it when we hear the first 2 notes.
Damn it. Yeah.
Um, yeah, um, those 2 I think are the songs that I'm expecting or the
Okay.
songs that I'm, like, pushing with my intuition.
Okay.
Um, and of course, there are a ton every time I listen to Phish, no matter what the album is, no matter where I am in the playlist, I'm thinking, "Oh, they're gonna play this for sure." Or, I get really excited because I think they're gonna play a song that I heard at the time.
Right, right.
Um, and, that always changes every time I listen to them because I always I try to listen to all their albums, as often as possible, kind of equally because, I want that whole thing.
Sure.
And that playlist is 13 hours long. Um, yeah, um, yeah, so, I'll think, "Oh, they're gonna play Walls of the Cave," which I also really like.
That's a good one.
They are gonna play, Sense and Subtle Sounds, the only song I like on that album. Um, I'll find songs that I get real inclinations at the moment, and
Sure.
then it goes away because it wasn't as strong as Fluffhead was at the beginning.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Okay, don't let your favorite songs, mess with that, because
Right.
I don't want to make a song show up, I want it to have I that's kind of like what my intuition, I think, would
Right.
do is, like, I want it to come to me rather me trying to summon something. Um,
Well,
yeah.
you've already summoned it. So, just because we're doing this I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning. We're doing this in a two-parter.
Mhm,
We're gonna pick up on this
mhm,
after your first show. So just so people know we're not lying, because if on Saturday night they play a Fluffhead and
mhm.
a Wilson, I'm gonna shit my pants. I'm gonna be like talking
I'm
to you
I'm
before every show. But look, here's for everyone watching. Here's the date. I don't know if you can see that.
Mhm,
Thursday, May 26th.
mhm,
So there's no editing going on to make it look like you guessed it. So if on Saturday night, Memorial Day weekend,
mhm.
Phish Tour 2022,
Yeah.
they play Fluffhead and Wilson,
Mhm.
I'm literally gonna lose my mind.
Yeah, I I I got the first inclination from Flophead. Wilson was like a,
An
"Whoa, what
afterthought.
if they played that too?" Like, you
Uh-huh.
know? So I'm gonna I'm gonna lose my mind at Fluffhead.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll
and
be
I think
losing our mind
Sand
together.
yeah, and I think Sand was an easy guess for Tab because Sand is a Tab song, and I've noticed, I think this may just be me looking at set list, um, Tab tends to play the same 20 songs for an entire weekend run, and I'm just that means I got it easy. I just got it on the first try. Like, they played Sand, I think, every night of that run.
They
So
could've,
I'm
I
just
don't
like,
know.
"Okay, maybe I didn't do it. Maybe it was I don't know
Right,
what
it's
it
like
was."
one of those easy ones because I remember, whenever we were all hitting shows pretty regularly, every
Mhm,
summer, we would always, we'd get in, and wait, and before the show starts, we'd be like, "Okay,
mhm.
call the opener. What do you think they're gonna open with?" And we'd all say,
Yeah, yeah.
what we think, and one time, and I believe I don't wanna say where we were at because I can't remember. I'm just gonna mislabel it. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
But the song that I called was "Sample in a Jar." I was like, "They're gonna open with Sample in a Jar." And then sure enough, and I was like, I was on top of the world. I was like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah." But if you go back and look, like, that's, like, one of the most common and most popular songs that they, like it's like a show opener song, so it was, like,
Yeah,
taking, like, the low-hanging fruit, but I
right.
still called it,
That's
so it doesn't matter.
That's funny because, like, I mean, I like to think with every tour it's different. Like, last tour okay, I love Squirming Coil, it is one of my favorites, I think because of Paige. But last summer, I tuned into a lot of the streams,
Yeah.
um, and they played Squirming Coil so often. That one and Simple, so often. I was tired of Squirming Coil, I was tired of Simple, I already am not a big fan of Simple. Um, yeah, I know, it's weird. My dad my dad loves to give me a hard time for that. I have a weird I probably shouldn't have talked about this while we were on still, but um, I have a very weird, like, songs that I like that others don't like, and then songs that others like that I don't.
Sure.
Um Yeah, and a lot of them were childhood songs, because I listened to them so much then that I'm like, "Okay, I only want new stuff. I only want, stuff I've never heard before."
Mhm.
Um, so I said that about Run Like an Antelope. I said that about Tweezer. I I
That you didn't like
used
them?
that I didn't like them
Oh,
strictly
no.
because I heard them so often.
Right.
And that's, I think, what you guys think about Joy, about that album and Big Boat, and I mean, not Sigma, I think Sigma is a different story,
It's a
I
absolutely
think.
different story.
Mhm.
That is a, not talking 1.0, any of that. That is a
Right.
new era. Like, that album is,
Yeah,
in my opinion, one of the best that's come out since
yeah.
I don't even wanna say because I don't wanna get in trouble. I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble by, but it's a
Yeah,
really great album.
yeah, I love to sometimes make people mad because I really like Time Turns Elastic, and a lot of people don't. I'm just like, "It's the jammy one on there." It it has new lyrics, and then it gets jammy. What do people not like about it? I guess they just heard it so often back
I don't
in, like, 2009.
I think I've kind of got a grasp on why the general consensus is no on Time Turns Elastic.
Okay,
And I feel like there's a comparison that can be made with people saying that Nickelback is the worst band alive.
right.
Because if you look at it at face level, right, it's you can make memes about Nickelback all day. You hear someone listening
Yeah.
to Nickelback, you can be like, "Huh, loser, you're listening to Nickelback." But at the end of the day,
Mhm,
if you play a Nickelback song, whatever the popular one was that they had on the radio, you play that song, people aren't like pulling their ears out of their head.
Yeah.
They're not. They might roll their eyes, but
They're
it's not.
yeah. Yeah.
It's not. Nickelback does not deserve the hate that they get.
Mhm.
So I'm taking that stance. I'm
Yeah.
full of things on this episode that people are just gonna roast me about.
Oh my god.
Nickelback does not deserve the hate they get, as
Mhm.
well as Time Turns Elastic. And this is me not being a fan of
Yeah.
Time Turns Elastic or
Mhm.
Nickelback for that matter. But I don't think that it deserves the amount of hate that it gets. So that's where I'll
Yeah.
leave that.
Yeah. I mean, I really like Joy. I think I really like the albums that I do strictly because I found them all like on Spotify, I found them all at the same time, mostly. Um, the only one I think that I can say that I don't like is Undermined. Um, and strictly because I think it's because of the time that it was released. It was right before the breakup, I think. Um, I feel like you can tell something's off.
Oh,
Um, I think at least that's what I get
that's
when I listen to it.
sure.
Um, I don't hate it. I do not absolutely hate it. I still listen to it sometimes, but it's one of those albums that I don't pay attention to too much. Like I will be caught singing the lyrics, and I'm afraid to admit that. Um, I think Jackson will agree with me that he also doesn't like it. I think. Um,
I think.
I don't know. I don't know anymore. But I when it comes to Undermine, I know the songs. I like some of them. They aren't it just doesn't feel like Phish. Just something feels off. Not a lot of them are jammy, except for Sense and Subtle Sounds. Um, I cut on the playlist. I cut it off after that. I know there are more songs on there, but I refuse for some
Gotcha.
reason. It's just very like,
Doesn't do it for you,
yeah, I don't
and
know
that's
what it
okay.
is. And
There's
it
no
took.
wrong.
Mhm.
There's no wrong Fish song to dislike.
Um, um, ask me that 2 minutes ago when I said "Run like an antelope and tweezer."
Right.
Right, like,
Right.
yeah, like, I don't have any say in why I don't like those li why I wouldn't like those. Of
Right.
course, I like them now. Um, yeah, I think, like I said, it's due to my weird introduction to them. Um, I wasn't a fan during or after the breakup, so I didn't see any of those shows. I did
Sure.
not get overexposed to those songs. And yeah, I think it has to do with exposure. Even the time that you were introduced to something, I think also is a factor
It
because
is.
you could like one thing earlier, but then maybe later on, if you're introduced to it later, you're like, yeah, I don't like this. Mm, It's
Yeah.
very time dependent.
And yeah, time dependent and also like outside circumstances. Like what kind of
Mhm.
headspace are you in whenever you're
Mhm.
experiencing it? Or, did you just go through a breakup or did,
Mhm.
whatever just happened? It's all
Mhm.
good. It all factors in. Everything ties in with it.
Yeah.
Um, but I want to get back to your first show.
Mhm.
You've already called you and I'm expecting. I feel like now
Don't
I'm
put that
expecting it.
pressure on me.
I feel like
Oh,
now I'm expecting it
I
more. So song
yeah.
wise, we know what you're quote unquote calling or
Mhm.
what you're kind of thinking will happen. What else? Like, what do you think the experience is going to be like? Because it's going to be similar to the Tab show that you went to, but it's
Mhm.
also going to be different.
Yeah.
So what are you looking forward to? Are you going to go early and hang out in the lot and like look at all the weird people, or are you going to go straight into the show? Like what are you
Um,
expecting? What are you wanting to
I
see?
I when it comes to like I guess the stands or where I am, I'm the ADA seating.
Sure.
And that was decided early on, way before I broke anything.
Right. You'll be more
Um,
comfortable there too.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't want to be trampled or
Yeah.
no one else would be higher than I am because I'm 4'4". I'm very short.
Right.
So everyone else, and I think is it safe to say that Fish is a kind of a male dominated thing?
I would say that it is safe to say that. I mean, there
Right.
are
Mhm.
like you have like the I don't know if it's a movement or what. I'm getting myself canceled on this episode. I don't know if it's a movement or whatever, but there's like it's like a thing, like if a Facebook group or
Yeah.
like an Instagram, the Phish
Mhm.
chicks, I mean, and
Mhm.
there are,
Yeah, there are women, but the
yeah,
women that I know are either wives or girlfriends or me, who my dad showed me
right,
them. I don't know women like me who are Fish fans for themselves. Like Fish, for a long time, it was between me and my dad, and then when I met Jackson, it became more of a, oh, I really like this band. I'm gonna talk about them more.
hmm
Um, but yeah, so the reason I mentioned that is because like everyone's taller than me. Like,
right, yeah. So
yeah,
at least this way you'll have seats to where you can actually enjoy and see the show.
yeah, yeah, and that's what we looked for when we were looking at the Tab show.
Hmm
We were able to get balcony tickets, and we were able to get the front of the balcony tickets.
Nice.
Um, so, and of course, I could not stand up then either, but um, I think it's gonna be a good. I think I have a good spot. I don't know exactly where because I've looked at the map. The ADA is like a strip in between. I
Gotcha.
think the pit and the stands.
So you don't know if you're
Um,
Page side or Mike side or
yeah,
right in
I
the
don't.
middle? Gotcha, okay.
Right. And I know that a lot of people are like, "What side are you on?"
Mhm.
They're very
Yeah, Page
into
side,
that.
Rage side, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah, what I'm expecting is, first of all, I'm gonna be wearing these with noise cancellation because
Wear the
they are
headphones.
loud.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah, no,
loud.
I've taken earplugs to shows before
Mhm.
too. It's you gotta save your hearing.
Yeah, and last time, I can't remember if I did this or not. I brought sunglasses with me just in case the lighting wasn't
It
too,
gets
like,
intense.
bright.
Yeah,
Mhm. Especially with shows like MSG, right?
I've never
Um,
been.
really?
Really?
I haven't been either. I want to so bad, but my parents are like, "You realize New Year's MSG is, like, the biggest shows."
It's like the Super Bowl of Phish.
Yeah, yeah, and it's literally at MSG. So it's,
Yeah.
one of their biggest, I think, venues or something. I don't know if that's true. Um
I don't know. Yeah, a lot of people would be able to be like, "Oh no, the capacity of that is this, and they've played here in 1994, and the capacity of that was here." I don't know. I know it's not the biggest that they've played because of like the
Mhm,
festivals and things like that, but it's
mhm.
still a very large venue. I mean, it's
Yeah,
MSG.
yeah. Like, I wanna go to all sorts of different places. Like, even before I knew I was going to Fish, I was like, "I wanna go to Deer Creek and Dick's and MSG and all these other places that people constantly talk about on Twitter
hmm
because I'm very active on Twitter.
Right.
Um, it I want to go to all these places and festivals, although lately I think festivals are dying down, I think. Some people are saying that festivals are annoying because people talk or something like that.
I mean, people talk it. You're gonna see that, and the more like Phish, assuming this isn't your first and last, the more like shows that
Right.
you go to, like you're gonna notice there's people that are there to talk. There's people that are there to sell
As
stuff. It's all over the map.
as long as they don't talk during Squirming Coil Page solo, I'm good.
I'm like, don't talk to me at all. Like, look, we all
Yeah,
paid
no.
at least $60 to see this band right now.
Yeah.
They're playing, and you're trying to tell me what you want to do after the show. Stop.
Yeah, no, I wanna hear Paige's solo, like, I
Yeah,
wanna hear whatever.
yeah.
And I think I heard Mike did the solo once. I can't remember what show it was. Mike did the Squirming Coil solo instead of Paige for one night,
Oh,
and
that's cool.
I think that was one of the shows they put on for Dinner and a Movie, 'cause I watched every one of those. I was up every week. Um,
It gives you something to look forward to.
yeah, yeah, and it's always a different show. It's always very, like, you don't know what you're gonna get, and
Right.
I was really excited to get my Hampton show in there,
Mhm.
11/20/22/97. Um, I think that was one of their anyway, sorry, I'm getting off track.
No, no, you're good.
Um, yeah, I am and during set break, I think I'm meeting a couple people from Twitter.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'll actually get to interact because other than family, I don't think I have anyone. Like, you, I think, are the first not family person that likes fish as much as I do that I know. at this point.
I'm honored. And I think that's one of the things, and I love that you brought up, like, the community aspect of it,
Mhm,
with meeting people from Twitter, because I
mhm.
think that that's one of the things, and we can talk about it whenever you come back on after the show.
Yeah.
The community part of it is just, there's no real words to describe it. I feel like you're
Mhm,
gonna walk in there and you're gonna walk out of there with
mhm,
feeling like not right, because you just touched on it. The only people that you that listen to Fish are like within your family.
mhm.
I think you're gonna walk out of there thinking like, "Oh, this whole thing is my family," because
Yeah.
that's really what it feels like. I mean, I've
Mhm,
met people from all over the country, and that's really the reason that I wanted to start this podcast, is to meet
mhm,
more people that I've
mhm.
never met from all across the
Yeah.
country.
Mhm,
Because it's just like you're meeting like a very distant cousin or a relative or something, because you have this core thing in common, and
mhm.
everyone tends to be pretty like-minded.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a few
Mhm.
outliers, but I think you're gonna walk away from this experience being like, oh, like
Yeah.
this is special.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's interesting, I think, because of my perspective, that I got to see Dinner in the Movies before my first show.
right.
I got to watch the streams of their current shows
Mhm.
before my first, it's I have a very like I have an idea, right? And because I've seen it, I think my idea is better than it would have been had I not seen like a video of the show,
Right.
right? But, I'll never know what it's like to hear Wilson on the speakers, right?
Not until
Um,
Saturday.
we'll see, hopefully. Um, I this isn't going up until after, right?
Yeah, no, this isn't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait until, after
Mhm.
you've had your first show, and then we'll hop back on, and
Okay,
then I'll post it afterwards. So
okay,
it'll
yeah.
be, and that's why I wanted to do this, because, everyone that I've had on up to this point
Mhm,
has seen Fish. Some people have been seeing them since the early 90s. Some
mhm,
people, we've been on the same journey with it.
mhm,
And so everyone kind of has that same shared experience.
mhm,
And that's why I wanted to do yours in a two-parter, because I want to see how you talk about the band. And it's not like you just discovered Fish, right? Like, we've
yeah.
heard your whole story, so you know
Mhm,
what to expect. You've seen the videos, you've been to a tab show, you know what the crowd's like, you know
mhm,
what you're going into. So you're not going to
mhm.
go in there and be like, "Oh my god, like what the
Yeah,
hell? Like what is that guy
yeah.
doing?" You know what to expect, but having that, coming back and having that different perspective after, like, actually experiencing it, that's what
Mhm,
I can't wait until we get you back on here, and you're just gushing about the show, or you might come on and
mhm.
be like, "I hate Fish, and I'm never listening to him again."
No, that would not happen, I don't think. Like,
I
Fish
don't
was
think
my
so either.
childhood.
But,
I don't know if that's a pressure or if that's a expected thing of like, "Fish was my childhood. If they don't impress me now, will they ever?" But
no, I
I don't
no.
think that'll happen.
And that's one of the things about Fish, like, their catalog is so deep.
Mhm.
Like, you can listen for years and years and years, and there's still always gonna be something that you haven't heard,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what's cool about it.
Mhm.
But wow, time has flown on this episode.
Is it gonna be
Usually
like 2 hours or something? What's happening?
no, they're usually 1 hour, and right now we're at 1 hour and 8 minutes, which is fine. It's not like, my boss is like, "Hey, wrap it up." But I do like to keep these around the time for, like, what someone would have as, like, a commute, like,
Mhm.
because I feel like that's usually when people listen, or, like, on their lunch break or something like that.
Yeah.
So now that we know what you're kind of expecting and going into,
Mhm.
let's pause here,
Mhm.
and then we're gonna pick back up after your first show.
Okay.
So we'll be back. And we're back, and you are a brand new person.
Yeah. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. So, you had your first Fish show last night.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts?
It's funny because at first I think within the first few songs, I was thinking, "Okay, I'm spoiled by Dinner and a Movie because, like, I'm able to see everyone."
Right,
and like
right.
watch everything happen. And now I was at a distance and I had to like squint to see them. So I'm like,
Oh,
okay, I'm spoiled, but at the same time, I'm in the crowd. I get to watch what happens, right?
yeah. You're part of it.
Yeah. Um, it was cool to because you know how when you listen to live shows, sometimes the crowd can be a little like annoying and you're like waiting for the next
Right.
song to come
You
up.
can hear the
Uh-huh.
yells and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's like not annoying because now you kind of like seeing
Because you're
what
part
they're
of
doing. Yeah, you're part of it and it's
Yeah.
I think it's become like a I don't know if it's like common sense or something, but like uh I think something that's common is you want to be heard on the tape, you
Yeah.
know?
You, like, listen back and you're like, "I
Where
I
am I?"
screamed out potato salad really loud." You, like, listen for it. Yeah, but it is cool because, as silly as it sounds, and,
Mhm.
you can't pick yourself out of, like, the crowd noise, but you know
Yeah.
that you contributed to it, and it's kinda cool that, like, it lives on a
Yeah.
recording forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a pretty cool feeling. So,
Mhm.
walk me through, before we get into the show, walk me
Mhm.
through, like, you get to the venue, what's the parking lot scene like? What are you doing? Are you smashing grilled cheeses, or what are you
Uh, no, we
what's your
didn't
crew
hit
doing?
any lot. We didn't hit any lot because we got there, I think, half an hour before the show.
Okay.
Um, and I think the, like, shakedown, whatever you call it, was
Mhm.
far or something. There were people,
Yeah.
like, tailgating or not tailgating, just, like, sitting in their cars, like, listening to someone was listening to Sirius XM.
Mhm.
Um,
Just hanging
I
out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, someone gave my dad and I a necklace thing, like,
That's cool.
um, yeah. Um, and then security was so weird. I think something
Mm.
happened the night before.
Uh-oh.
Um, so the venue got a lot stricter and they changed their rules last minute.
Huh.
Um, so the whole like carrying a bag with you, they let you have a purse but not a fanny pack, which I think would
That's
be
kinda
the
weird.
same thing.
I mean, it kinda is. It's all just cloth sewn together to hold things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, but they were being so strict about it, and people got so like, Jackson and Maddie had to go back in line they had to go back, put Maddie's, like, purse down at the car, and then come back, and the line was, like, so long, it had ended where we were dropped off.
Oh my god.
So they had to come back that way, and then my dad had heard about 2 more tickets that we had gotten, so he went kind of around I don't know if you've been to that venue, but
I haven't.
so it's kinda I think it's like a loop thing where you have multiple entrances,
Mhm.
um, and, he went so we went to the main entrance. There was this kind of wooden bridge thing that would take you, I think, to the next entrance thing or something, and apparently you can, like, grab tickets there that you got later, but
Oh, kinda like a will call situation, or
yeah, yeah,
okay.
that's what it's called, and they said, "No, we don't have your tickets," and he tried coming back, and the security lady was like, "Hey, you can't come back this way." So he had to go back all the way to the security line and go through that again.
Dude,
Yeah, the this this venue and it wasn't Phish, it wasn't the police, it was the venue that
the
was being
venue.
so weird. Yeah, even I think Jackson told me about how, he talked to a police officer who was there, and he said, "Yeah, this is dumb. It's being so strict for nothing."
Hmm.
And even he couldn't, like, check bags, right? Because I would think you would have to check the bag, not you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't and it's weird whenever and like you mentioned, like, you said something might have happened on night 1, like, who knows what
first
that
night.
was or what the
Yeah,
situation was for them to
smuggling something.
there's stuff's always getting smuggled, but,
Yeah,
who knows what the situation was, but it is so frustrating whenever the venues, like you go to, because some venues are like super easy,
Mhm.
and I mean, like you don't even have to have a ticket. You can just show up and hand the door person like a $20 bill and they'll let you in. Like some places are
Yeah.
like super chill, and
Uh-huh.
then other places, like I don't want to say that they're taking it too seriously, because you have to
I
be good with like safety and things like that. But some of the stuff is just like
I
too.
think
It's like,
they
come
are.
on.
I think they are taking it a little too seriously, and it's a
Yeah.
venue, it's not Phish, like, if you don't know the crowd that is at
Right.
Phish shows, then you probably shouldn't. Like, there's so many restrictions, like, and we didn't know about that restriction until we got to the security line. Um,
That's the messed up part. Like they should have it
yeah,
posted online. Like you should be informed so you're not having to make trips back and forth. But go ahead.
yeah, because, like, everyone was, prepared for what the rules were before, and
Right.
now it
It's
it's
the
so
worst.
stupid.
I
Yeah.
know. But that part did not ruin your time. So
No.
you get into the venue after all
Mhm.
of the hectic, changing guidelines.
Yeah.
Um, so you get in, find your spot.
Mhm.
Lights of that. What are you snacking on anything, or are you just going in water? You're not doing
Not
any.
really.
Yeah,
Yeah, just water, just something.
yeah.
I think so we were waiting for them to come back. We had to do a lot of waiting.
Uh huh.
Um, we found our seats pretty easily, which I wasn't expecting.
Good. Were you Paige
Um,
side or Mike side
I
or
was
middle?
Mike's side. I was
Mike
Mike's
side.
side.
Cool.
Yeah. Um, but I feel like at such a distance, part of me is like, it doesn't, at a distance, I think it doesn't matter. If you're like in the mosh pit or something, or a lot closer, I feel
Close.
like
Yeah.
it
On the
definitely
floor.
matters. Right, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we were Mike's side. And I think through the night we met a couple people, which I did not expect doing.
Oh yeah, you said you were
Um,
gonna meet up with your some people from Twitter. How'd that go?
yeah, I met up with one person, although I couldn't really meet up with her until after because she had snuck into the mosh pit and she couldn't get out of it
Yeah.
before second set.
Yeah.
Um, so um, we she waited until after the show, or I guess after encore, yeah,
Mhm.
um, to meet up with me. It was very quick, and we also talked a lot with people who were kind of around us,
Sure.
um, which I thought was interesting. I did not expect that because, like, usually you kind of don't want to talk to anyone usually, but at a fish show, it's like everyone talks to everybody, and everyone was excited because it was my first show, so it was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, yeah,
Yeah. It's
um,
almost like your birthday party almost,
yeah,
It's like, and that's kind of what we were talking about, before. I was saying, like, I think you're gonna come away from this feeling like you've got like a new family, because it is like
yeah,
everyone gets so excited, and
hmm
every time and what's cool is like every time that you go, you'll be sitting or like with another group of people that you've never met, and
hmm
then each time that you go, it just grows and grows and grows, and it's
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
really cool thing. So
yeah,
do you
yeah.
everyone that was hyping you up for your first show, like they're around you, like did you, like, are you following them on Twitter now? Like, did you guys exchange numbers, or was it just like
Um,
a, hey, it's
my
cool while we're here?
parents did. I think
Okay.
I think my mom and Jackson both did. With one or two of them, I think. Because there was a couple that was in front of us. So the ADA
Mhm.
seating has like this kind of fencing rail thing, and then there's the benches that are in the front that are ne- right behind the mosh pit. So like there's the stands, and then there's ADA, which is right next to the alley kind of thing,
Right.
and then there are more benches in front of the ADA, and then the mosh pit. Uh, and this couple was right in front of us, and I don't know how we started talking, but I think my mom was like, "Okay, is this the end of the set? What's happening?" Like, it's like, we don't know what's happening.
Mhm.
And then she said, "Yeah, it's her first fish show." It's like they got really excited,
Yeah.
and we started talking from the silence of "What's the use?"
Mhm.
Which I did not expect to happen. And then I think we kind of talked on and off through the rest of it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it was really cool, and eventually they came up and joined us because we had 2 extra seats,
Oh, nice.
because I had a little wheelchair thing,
Mhm.
And my brother ended up not going. So we had 2 extra seats, and then there was this, like, little space behind my wheelchair where Jackson and Maddie were, um, and, we were all just filing around, um
Yeah.
yeah, so I ended up talking to a few people, yeah, that was really cool. I did not expect that, actually.
Yeah, it's almost yeah, like I said, it's like a party for you. Like people
Mhm.
find out it's like your first show and everybody's like, "Yeah!" like super
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Did you get any did you get any merch or any like did you get a shirt? Did you get a poster? Did you do any of that? Oh, you're wearing it right now. Nice, that's cool. So is that
I
like the
think it's
official one? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Fish Spring Tour. Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
it's not the, I don't think it's Night 2 shirt because that one was white and my mom was like, "Why is that one white?" So she got me this one.
Yeah, you don't
Um,
wanna get a white one. My very
no,
first Fish shirt that I ever got was white. I still have
really.
it, and I wound up tie-dyeing it, but white's just you don't wanna white shirts are so hard. Like,
Mhm.
they're gonna get dirty, they're gonna get the pit stains, like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
gotta
ugh,
get something else. But that's
yeah.
cool. So you got the shirt, did you get a poster or anything else? Or
I
just the
think
shirt?
Jackson got a poster. I keep wanting to steal it from him. Um, yeah, I wanted to get a poster, I think, because I have my Transtasio shirt or not shirt, poster from
Mhm,
the time that I went to Tab.
mhm.
I have that, like, framed, and I have the ticket from that and everything.
Yeah,
So I feel like I can't get rid of it because of that, but I do want that other poster.
yeah, yeah,
I
and
just need
having
to
it to, like,
talk
commemorate
Jackson into it.
I think you're a pretty slick talker. I think you might be able to let him or might be able to convince him to let it go.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it'll be super cool because it's like your first one, you know? I mean,
Mhm.
I recently just went and saw I say recently, I guess at this point it was a couple of months ago. But I went and saw Ween for the first time and
Really?
I got a poster. I still haven't obviously got it hung up or
Wrapped.
framed or
Yeah.
anything, but I got one and I was like, dude, this is my first Ween show. I was like, I gotta get this. And the poster's
Yeah.
pretty cool. It's like got skeletons and stuff on it. So um
Yeah.
okay, let's so what about the set list? They opened up with Sigma Oasis, right?
Yeah. They opened with Sigma, and that's what they also opened with at my Tab show, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and that was before the album came out, and, it was like, "Oh, it's a Trey song, whatever." And then the album came out, so I thought that was really cool.
Dude, that is cool,
Yeah.
especially like with what you just said. Holy crap. So like on both of your firsts, you're like, wait, do they start out every show the same?
I
That's
don't think
cool.
I don't think they knew, but that's funny that my first Tab and first Fish were both Sigma.
Right.
Um,
And
and
then
then Sigma
Possum.
and Sigma was right before the album came out
Yeah.
for Sigma Oasis, so I was like, "Oh my god, I know that song," you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So I'm
yeah,
looking at the set list here. Unfortunately, we did not get the 2 that we called, which
I
is
know.
okay. That's what happens
I
when you go in with expectations.
Yeah, I know.
Watch, they'll play both
Everyone
of them
else
tonight.
I feel like everyone in the crowd got or everyone within our group got a song. Um, so my mom got AC/DC Bag, I'm gonna
Mhm.
run through real quick.
Yeah.
My mom got AC/DC Bag, I got Reba, my dad got Rogae, right next to each other too.
Yeah.
And then Jackson really freaked out at Isabella.
Oh, yeah, at the end, I was doing the same thing.
Really? Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it's just like growing up, like, listening to, like, classic rock and, like, Jimi Hendrix and stuff,
Mhm,
like, hearing Isabella I remember the first time that I, like, was, just discovering and, like, listening through Fish and heard them
mhm,
playing Isabella just on a recording. I
mhm.
was like, "Holy shit, they're playing Jimi Hendrix song? Like, this is" like, I
Yeah.
knew they had, like, played Fire and stuff like that, but that was my first time hearing Isabella, and I was like, "Oh my god, this rips." And I feel like because they ended the show with Isabella, right?
Yeah, they ended the show,
Yeah, it was
like,
an
with
encore, yeah.
Encore Isabella, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool because I was
And then
watching the second
yeah,
set. My buddy sent a link, so I was experiencing it with you. Um, but yeah, I was sitting there the whole time that I was watching. I was like, "All right, come on, at least just get the hood. Like, just go into
yeah,
hood. Just go into hood."
yeah, I wanted, like, Hood, I wanted so, w the couple that was in front of us, um, the girl said So after If I Could, which I didn't think was gonna happen, I thought it was gonna end on MoMA. Um, but after If I Could, the girl was like, "Oh, they're gonna play Split. They're gonna play Split." And I was so hyped at that because that is the order of the first show that I listened to, the one with that David Bowie.
Oh,
If
right.
I Could is right before Split. So I was like, "Okay, if they do that,
That would be pretty cool.
yeah, that would be pretty cool."
So,
Um,
I wanna
yeah.
ask you, what was your favorite, musically, like, what was your favorite part of the show?
I really liked Reba.
Yeah,
I
of
really liked
course.
Reba. I was so hyped at Reba. I was also really hyped at Antelope because I did not expect that.
That's cool.
Um, I thought it was gonna like, I thought they were like, "Alright, it's gonna end now, let's go to encore," like, I thought that was gonna be it. Um, and they played Isabella or Antelope, sorry, and that was a pretty cool version, I think.
Mhm. What'd
And
you
I
think
think
about the Mr.
mhm.
Completely?
Here's the thing, I had bathroom break during A Wave of Hope into Mr. Completely, so I couldn't
Gotcha.
see the whole thing. Um, People on Twitter were like, "Yeah, this Mr. Completely is awesome," and I'm just like, "Oh my god, what am I missing?" Um,
It was pretty cool. I mean, the jam part of it, I'm not like the song, just
mhm,
song of Mr. Completely, I'm not, like, crazy about it. It's not, like,
yeah,
one of my
mhm,
favorite songs, but the jam that came out of it was pretty cool.
really,
And then they went
yeah,
into
it was
Walk
really cool.
Away. I was like,
Yeah,
"Dun,
yeah, that I
dun."
wasn't expecting either.
Yeah,
They played a few things that we had listened to on the way up,
that's cool.
which I thought was pretty funny. Um, my dad also got Free, although I think he'd already seen Free. I think he hadn't seen Rogue before, and Rogue is like his
His
big
jam.
one. Like he is obsessed with the Baker's Dozen release of Reba.
Oh, sure.
I mean not Reba, Rogue, sorry. Um, yeah, so that was really cool to
That
watch
is
because
cool.
it's funny to see the difference between my dad and like some other of the people. Because my dad, he was just standing there, and, but you could tell that he was enjoying it because he was not. Everyone else was walked out, but
Zoned
he
in.
was just like, just
Zoned. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah, everyone
And we're all
enjoys it
just like,
different ways, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome, and, like, so you're obviously, like, a takeaway from after your first show is
mhm.
you loved it, right?
Well, yeah, yeah. It's funny because, like I said, when I first got into, like when it first started, I was still thinking like, oh my god, this is just dinner and a movie, but it's loud. Like
Right.
I was kind of going a little negative, um, and then I got into it and I realized, oh, I can actually hear the crowd now. Um, I'm in the crowd. I didn't realize that. I don't know if this is always a thing, but like you can hear everyone singing with them.
Mhm.
You can't
Yeah.
hear that on the tape. You can only hear
Thank
them.
God.
Yeah. Yeah, you can only hear them.
Uh-huh.
Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so I thought that was a pretty cool difference.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
what are
that was.
you
Mhm.
when are you going to try and hit your next one? Are you, like, looking for this tour, or are you waiting, or
I wanted to go to tonight. Like the
Mhm.
people who I was with, um, they were like, "Oh my god, are you going tonight? Are you going to or tomorrow night?" And my parents were like, "Maybe," and we
Oh,
can't because my dad's having to drive for 7 hours.
right.
Um, I'm injured and
Right.
we don't have the tickets for it. Like we wouldn't be able to get ADA tickets again.
It would just be a
Um,
hassle, yeah,
yeah,
to
it
try and
would.
make it work.
So I can't go. Like, and those people are gonna be in that same spot. So I was gonna
Uh,
like get through
right.
that whole thing again. Um,
Well, maybe you can listen
yeah,
to it on Fish
Live
Radio
Fish Plus. Or oh
or
yeah,
Live Fit.
uh,
Yeah, I think that, and I might be misspeaking here, but I believe that on SiriusXM, like, whenever they play the shows, I think that they air them live. So you might
yeah,
be able to listen to it, while you guys are driving,
yeah,
but that's cool. I'm excited for you. I'm excited that you got to finally see Fish, and
yeah,
I'm glad that it was a good experience for you.
yeah,
What do you
yeah.
guys have on the docket for the rest of the day? You gonna go see some cool parts of Alabama, or what are you gonna do?
No, not really. I know Jackson's going out with. Do you know Matt?
Matt, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he's going out with, Matt and his family,
on the boat.
they're gonna go on the boat, yeah,
Yeah,
and then, they're going to that show. I think they're gonna be gone, like, most of the day.
yeah, yeah.
Other than that, yeah.
I was talking with Matt, and he said that he was only going on Sunday,
Mhm.
because he's
God.
down there. But he goes to Orange Beach a lot. I think at least once a year because him and his dad like to have the boat and stuff, and they just
Mhm.
go fishing and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
I was like, cool.
yeah, and, it's funny because people were saying, like, "Never miss a Sunday show," and I
I
was like,
know.
"Oh, wait, it is Sunday tomorrow. I'm missing the Sunday show."
It's okay though. I mean, you
They're probably
gotta
gonna
do what
play
you gotta
all the
do.
ones I wanted.
Play a 30-minute hood. You're like,
Yeah,
no. Well,
Fluffhead, Wilson, like, all
yeah.
those.
Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed your time. Sucks you
Mhm.
didn't get the 2 songs that we were talking about, but that's okay. That's why you don't have
Yeah, that's okay.
expectations.
Yeah.
And, I look forward to, at some point in the future, hitting a show with you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
um, I'm assuming that, Phish is keeping going, and
yeah.
as long as they can,
Mhm.
I'm certain that we'll see a show together. But Anderson, thank you for taking the time
Mhm.
last time, and thank you for taking the time this time.
Yeah.
I'll let you get back to your family and your vacation, and
Mhm.
we'll see you at a show soon.
Alright, cool.
All right.